break coming up after this presentation will be like. But let's get back to the awesome game presentations. Happily, this class is a learning experience, so this will be one of the things we'll be adjusting when we're moving forward. I think the pipeline for our presentations definitely is going to have to be shifted a bit after this. But moving on from that moment of learning here, I'm James Wilson, project lead for PinQuest.
I'm Uzair Chowdhury, lead producer.
Let's do the mics.
Okay.
I'm Jesse Jans. I'm the lead engineer.
And we are presenting PinQuest, the pinball RPG. Now, this gorgeous place, Pindor, is the realm where we'll be playing PinQuest. PinQuest, a pinball RPG. Now, you may have heard pinball RPG. Rollers of the Realm is a terrific competitor. They're approaching the same intersection of pinball and RPG, two well-loved genres. From a different angle, they're doing it from the pinball side. We're actually going at it from the RPG side. We're more interested in sort of those central mechanics, but we like the collision, the kinetic chaos of pinball. So the central mechanics are going to be bouncing it around these epic environments, colliding with enemies, environments, puzzles, etc., to run into the bosses, the kingpins, to collide with and destroy them, to get more power and do that some more, bigger enemies, bigger bosses, etc. Now, this land of Pindor is all actually within the pinball machine, a living, animated, magically of course, pinball machine. You, as a real-life pinball player of some experience, which actually I think well describes most of the people in this room, have long held the high score, right, at your local arcade? Well, that arcade high score has been erased by foul magic, right? A tragic story. But when you go to reclaim your high score, you are sucked into the machine, again, via foul magic. You guessed it. Good guess. Sharp people in the audience. Now, we're going to show you what that actually looks like. When you're in this pinball machine, Pindor, bouncing around, colliding with enemies and all that jazz, let's see what that... Right on. So there's the pull and release movement in action. We moved away from the paddles, and we sort of stuck with a closer to the actual avatar movement system. We've been testing a lot of different systems, but right now pull and release is the sort of most compelling, without nullifying all the fun bouncing around chaos bits. There are enemies and rooms and puzzles, as you saw with that sort of blocks, those beautiful gray, dark gray cubes getting moved around. Here we've got these just gorgeous spheres and capsules bouncing around for our really well-arted animation. The prototype is playable, and if anyone's interested in that, talk to me. But for now, just enjoy the super, super cool combat sequence. You see some of the powers being demonstrated. There was a shuriken being chucked about. There are some teleportation moves. There are some direction-changing moves. The warrior, for example, can stick his axe into the ground to rotate around it to change his direction. We've got a full list written up, and we'll actually be covering that in more detail in a few slides. But yeah, actually, let's move on. Now, one of the central points there, you'll notice that it is no flippers. Now, that's significant. We thought that flippers were best for, original pinball and dolphins and a few other lovely sea animals. So we thought we'd sort of stick away from that. It's less critical to us. Instead, we're using pull and release. Now, pull and release, you click on the hero, pull back, and release. As a tablet game, which we'll again be talking about in a bit, that's much easier with the swipe movement, but it actually works reasonably well on PC. We've got 3 classes, so let's get into those gritty RPG details, the stuff we all love so much. We've got the Warrior Orb, Shadow Orb, and of course the Wizorb, for you pinball wizards. They're distinguished by their play styles. The Warrior Orb, as the first example here, is direct, relentless, sort of blunt and brutal. That means if you're sort of interested in just sprinting into the next room and running headfirst into pretty much everything and anyone, that's a central class for you. We've got a few of the powers there, and we'll cover that in more detail. Right on, so the Shadow Orb, another one of the classes, is the sort of rogue parallel. It's more combo-centric. You're less able to run directly into an enemy, although that is still involved. You'll be using your movements and powers in combination. An example would be the tether. You collide with the next 2 objects you collide with, you attach a tether to them. Then you can maybe use your shuriken, for example, if you collide with 2 enemies, linking them together, throw your shuriken at that chain and have it pull them both into each other. So you don't have to get too caught up in the fray there. Another class, the Wizorb, is entirely different. So we wanted this to be a sort of high-risk, high-reward system. So to do that, our spell casting system is very movement-based. When you start casting the lightning field, as an example, you leave a trail. That trail, if an enemy crosses it, will interrupt your spell, so your spell will fizzle if you're doing this longer spell. But if you manage to close the shape, so you get around, you bounce in a triangle or in a regular polygon, whatever else, whatever kind of shapes you're having fun with. As you're moving around the field, when you close the shape, the spell fires, and all the enemies in the space will be struck by lightning. In terms of the enemies, thanks to Donavu for these terrific bits of art demonstration here, we've got basic stationary ranged enemies, which are what you saw in these prototype. And we'll also have some mobile melee enemies. The ranged projectiles and the melee enemies will be both attempting to hurt you directly and knock you into traps and off of stages. Although not in quite the same permaban way. And professors, if you're nervous about the sort of knocking around stuff, just to be clear, we have a strict no professor harming policy within the team. We also have kingpins, or bosses. An example kingpin would be the Spider Queen. So to defeat her, you'll have to knock her legs out and then climb on her monumental back to make your way up towards her head. The back would actually be sort of a mini pinball space, so we can bring in some of those favorite elements of classical pinball as references. In terms of the art style, we're looking at a few well-established games for the sort of direction, and that is 3D cel-shaded fantasy. Torchlight's an excellent example. That's, I think, the central direction we're moving towards, although they are a very professional team and very talented artists, so we'll be doing our best to sort of approximate. Team Fortress is another example of a terrific cel-shaded 3D, and you can see cel-shaded 3D with very simple assets actually allows a lot of information to be communicated. I don't know if anyone's noticing the attention being drawn to the enemy, your own equipment in the UI, and also the beautiful no dumping allowed sign. I think this sort of simple assets, if you guys actually look at the texture behind that sign, it's very simply rendered, so it should be able to reduce the strain on our artists. Now, Bloom is one of the most gorgeous games coming out in the recent I don't know, centuries. I might be optimistic, but you know, it is a beautiful game made here at USC by students, including actually 2 of our own team. And so basically 3D cel shaded is possible, and gorgeous 3D cel shaded is possible via student work. We're aiming for gorgeous 3D cel shaded fantasy. We'll be building in Unity for tablets and PC. Tablets are the central platform, but we are going to be building for PC simultaneously, and largely because it's easier to build for and sort of faster turnover. We can get those usability tests in a little quicker. We want to make sure our game, seeing as we're doing something new at the intersection of established trends, is working well. The tools we're using in terms of these sort of larger pipeline systems would be SVN, Tortoise SVN, or actually just SVN for anyone who's actively using it. I can't imagine the last time I've said Tortoise SVN. But in either case, we'll be using SVN to manage our data and naturally Handsoft to manage our team. We've got a link through one of our brilliant advisors to Handsoft, so we've got that online. And our production pipeline, or sort of game plan rather, pipeline being the wrong term here, is pre-production over the summer. We're going to start testing it out, playing with our sort of core mechanics, get that concept art blocked out, some of the sort of levels drawn out and designed and imagined. And first semester, we'll get rolling. We've got the establishment of all the basic gameplay, making sure it works and starting to feel right. And absolutely the first level. We're aiming to get the second level done as well. Although, worst case scenario, we'll get the design and sort of start rolling in development on that. Before demo day 1, we'll have the first. The second semester, we have the third level and the final kingpin. So there are 2 bosses, 3 levels, lots of fun work to do, and we'll be getting it knocked out. Right on. So now let's talk about our team. We already introduced ourselves up here, but we've got a terrific cast of well, very competent folks. I mean, our engineer, Jesse here, recently came from working at Facebook, so he is no small-time engineer. I mean, we've got the talent. Actually, you won the hackathon, right?
Yeah.
He won the USC hackathon, so among motivated engineers, he's one of the best. And in terms of the rest of the talented folks, I could give you a few paragraphs on that, but I think you get the gist. We also have a very talented bunch of advisors. So, among the faculty here, we brought in Nashak, Brinson, Essen, very bright indie developers, because we're operating not as some AAA super studio. We can't sort of use that structure. We don't have 300 people. So we're definitely looking to develop in the sort of more indie family of thought. So that's where our advisors are coming from, although actually Nashak is a bit of a contrast to that. Right on. In any case, the creators Bloom, Khaled, Peter have also brought their veteran knowledge to our team, and it's been terrific having them on board. Much thanks to you two. Okay, and we are PinQuest. Thanks for your time.